Well, good afternoon. My name is Ed Condon. I'm with Region 9 Head Start Association. I'm so appreciative of your time for this informational webinar to walk you through what the Leadership Challenge Workshop is all about, answer any questions for you, and also share with you a couple resources so that you have an idea of what is offered in the 2 days coming up in April. So Lindsay, my associate, is going to go ahead and advance the slides and welcome questions as we go along, or we can wait till the end, whichever works. The workshop that we're planning is in April 21st and 22nd, in the Kellogg West Conference Center and Hotel, which is at the Cal State Pomona. So it's right on campus there. Facilities include the hotel as well as the conference center, pretty affordable. We are encouraging you to sign up for the course by the 1st of April for two reasons. One is the hotel is asking to make sure that we have our room block taken care of. And I do hope, if you can, to stay over at least the night in between, even if you are semi-local. And the other is that there's a fair amount of pre-work that we want to make sure that you accomplish, because it makes the session so much more meaningful if you get through the pre-work. And I'll talk a little bit more about the pre-work in just a minute. Okay. So just a little bit about myself, the work that I do here. As I share, I'm with the Region 9 Head Start Association. That is my day job, and I've worked with the Head Start community for, gosh, about 23 years. And prior to that, I ran a group of Montessori early education programs here in Sacramento County. I've worked with the Head Start California, with the National Head Start Association, and I've really had the great blessing of working with programs both in helping them organize, working on government relations work, planning conferences and professional development opportunities, as well as leading this effort with our leadership offerings, our leadership development courses. And here at Region 9, we've developed three primary courses that all draw from similar leadership disciplines. And the first is our Site Directors Academy that we do once a year. This year it'll be in Palm Springs in May. We also have our Managers Academy, which we run 6 months of the year, all virtual. And then we have the Leadership Challenge course itself. All three draw from the book, The Leadership Challenge by Kuznis and Posner. And so what we do with the workshop that's different than the courses is where the courses draw from it in a comparative style. The workshop goes deeper into utilizing the assessment, and it really goes into that core piece, the leadership practices inventory. And I'll share with you more about that. But this workshop is not such a leadership development in that it is sort of a comparative with a Head Start frame. It's really about your personal development. So we really want to make sure these 2 days are well designed for your personal growth and development. And I'll share a little bit more about the tools that we use. So I thoroughly enjoy doing this workshop. As I say, running the association is my full-time job, but this gives me a challenge to work directly with agencies. I've done this now for about 14 years with the Leadership Challenge and belong to the community of providers. Annually, I go to a conference to sharpen my saw, if you will, and learn more about strategies in developing this work in the lives of others. I love to start with this quote by the authors, Jim Kuznis and Barry Posner, come from the University of Santa Clara originally. That's where they began their work, working with local entrepreneurs in the Silicon Valley 40 years ago, and that was very much a startup environment. As they went around and did their interviewing and their assessments and listening to the stories and the struggles of those entrepreneurs and others in leadership roles, they built this course really from the behaviors they identified to be exemplary. And this quote is one that they're well known for, and I love the thought that leadership is the art of mobilizing others to want to struggle for shared aspirations. And buried within this are a lot of concepts, and we'll use this quote in the workshop, but the first and most profound is that leadership is an art. Like all great art, it isn't repeated the same every time. It isn't the same from one artist to the next. It's very much a form that comes from the soul. It comes from the heart. It comes from the head. And leadership is about moving people forward. Where management is about getting things done, leadership is about mobilizing others. It's about having that vision. And this concept of struggle, if I told you that I wanted you to come to a workshop to learn to struggle, you'd say no thank you. But it's true. We all struggle. Sometimes we struggle toward a goal that we're excited about. Sometimes we struggle to avoid the consequence of challenging times. Struggle is where we learn. Struggle is where we practice. Struggle is where our experiences are most real to ourselves. And the last part of this quote, these concepts of shared aspirations. And again, in the workshop, we'll unpack that. But what's core to the Leadership Challenge course and what's core to the trainings of Jim Kouzes and Barry Posner is that we must all buy into this value system for us to have that shared interest. That when we are in a shared space, we are much more likely to consent, to give, to offer in a more gracious way the servant leader that so many look for from us. So it's a great quote. I'll let you linger with this for just a moment. I'm curious, for those on the line, just to put you on the spot, what jumps out to you in this quote as you look at it? Yep, you're muted, Veronica.
Can you hear me?
Yep,
I don't know why my speaker's not really functioning.
you're good.
So something that really resonates is definitely mobilizing others, because that really, from a management perspective and then a leadership perspective, could look very differently, just like you said. So something about that, and really accumulating the vision and the purpose, with with a with an agenda that doesn't benefit like that individual, but that benefits multiple people that we're currently serving.
Yeah,
So
love it.
mobilizing others for me is what stood
Yeah,
out.
and I think of how well this leadership framework matches up to Head Start, because when you think of the work we do with children and families, it is exactly that. We are mobilizing them. We are trying to prepare them for that later in life success, whether that later in life is kindergarten or that later in life is through their parenting functions with their other children and well on to life success. I love the fact that mobilizing is here because it's at the core of what Head Start does in its work the staff that we hire, the parents we serve, and of course the children who are in our program. So again, if you enjoy this quote, much of the work really centers around this, and so you'll enjoy the workshop. Let's jump forward if we can for just a moment. I have a video I want to show you, but before I do, I want to just ask again a little more feedback from those of you online here, so get ready. Based on your role today, and we didn't discuss this before our call, what roles you have, what is it that draws you to a workshop like this? Is it building trust? Is that what you're looking for? Is it increasing collaboration across teammates or amongst the team that report to you? Or maybe it's increasing collaboration in the team that's above you, sharing vision, team building we talk about, helping others to grow in their role, or developing your individual strengths. What sort of pops off the page that's motivating you to look into this workshop?
Sorry, 1 second.
You're good.
I think for me, I think it's developing my own individual strengths as a leader, or as, yeah, like someone who's gonna support others. Because right now, what we do, well, what I do is I currently work with the teachers in like a coaching role, and so for me, it's like really like figuring out how or developing like my skills and like so that I can help them to affect change in their own approach and their own skills for the classroom and work and in working with the kids.
Absolutely. I think that's a starting point for a lot of people who come into this course because they recognize that to help others, it's really understanding that strength base, what they bring to the equation. And clearly, all of these items are key to high functioning teams, trust and collaboration, vision, and so forth. But it starts with ourselves, doesn't it? And so often in early childhood education or in Head Start, we don't spend a lot of time looking at ourselves as agents of change. We know curriculum, we know family development, we might know administrative strategies, but it's really a privilege to step back and say, how do I show up? How do people see me? And I'll show you in just a bit about how that's measured and it's provided back to you in a manner that hopefully is very meaningful. So before we jump into more details about the course, I want to play a video that was just released by the publisher, Wiley. There we go. And I think you'll enjoy this perspective from the Boys and Girls Club of America.
In Boys and Girls Clubs, one of our primary focuses is providing the next generation of leaders. But in order to do that from a youth perspective, we need to empower and equip our employees and volunteers to demonstrate sound leadership practices.
Focusing on leadership, not just management, was going to be crucial. And when we looked at the different things available to focus on leaders, we knew that having a similar language, looking at true competencies and practices that a leader needed to know and have, the leadership challenge just made sense.
The Leadership Challenge has helped us create a culture of leadership, both in local clubs and in our national organization, by giving us a common language to talk about leadership. Its impact is felt daily. It just becomes the natural way in which we do our work.
The Leadership Challenge is really agnostic, and it allows us to anybody can take this and find a way to develop an action plan, a growth plan, a professional development plan for themselves, and it doesn't matter what your title is. What I saw at BGCA especially were more individuals raise themselves up to the occasion to say, oh, I actually never considered the fact that I'm a leader because I don't have 5 or 10 people reporting to me, so I saw myself as a manager, but I didn't see myself as a leader. Honestly, so much of that language are things that over the last 20, 30 years in our own development of training of staff have already existed. But the Leadership Challenge put them all in a nice bubble. And I think the cake on top for me was the 30 years of research behind it.
We've done some analysis, and the data is showing that we're seeing increases in club experience. We're seeing higher metrics and key performance indicators.
Even during the pandemic, we were able to have more than 80% employee engagement results, and we're now pushing 90% as an organization. We're able to have more meaningful relationships with our young people and our clubs, which then in turn helps us deliver on our mission.
Great leaders create great workplaces that create great club experiences. The Leadership Challenge really helped us hone in on building great leaders that we know that could create the workplace environments that young people and employees thrived in.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that video for a couple of great reasons. And Lindsay, if you want to move to the next slide, just to point out, one is the speakers talk about the fact that there is common language across different individuals. And this, of course, is very much part of what the Leadership Challenge allows you to embrace. Whether you are working in an educational position or family development or allied, whether you're working in administration or you're working in classroom-based services, the Leadership Challenge is agnostic. She spoke of that. It allows everyone to embrace this language. It also provides a group or individuals with various entry points. Whether you've been at this for 4 years or 40 years, the Leadership Challenge allows you to embrace not just the leader you are, but the elements of where your leadership is most expressed and where you are working most collaboratively. And for that framework, it really is golden because it allows you to reset your work without changing the work you do. For example, when we've talked with others who have employed this course, they'll say to me, you know, I made a simple agenda change where I ask about the good things that go on in my work as opposed to jumping right into the agenda of the day. We celebrate first, and they'll say it changes the whole flow of a meeting. So there's examples like that that are embedded within the practice areas that the Leadership Challenge helps us to be mindful of. There are many others as well, but that's just one that jumps out. So that idea that it's agnostic to position, as well as it creates common language, allows for it being easily shared. And the other piece is that you heard it said that this is grounded in attendee data and evidence, meaning the attendees of the course that you'll be in is the data that you'll be reflecting on, as well as data that's comparative to a database of several million individuals who have looked at their leadership performance over the past 40 years. So the database is rich, it's informative. And that the exercises that we take are not exercises that are sort of wishful. They're concrete. We talk about real life experiences within your agencies, within your assignment, within the assignments you have. So we have these peer-to-peer and small group reflections so that you come away with not only insights about how you are, but what other strategies individuals might be deploying to expand or to increase their impact. And then, of course, this concept of experiential learning, we try to make this real, we try to make it hands-on, we try to make it fun as well, because we know that everyone needs to get up and move, and so part of the course is to encourage that as well. So let me just step back and say the Leadership Challenge is founded with the first step being the Leadership Practices Inventory. And this is the assessment that's included with the course. It's a 360 assessment, and for some that may be new. That means that you would identify as an enrollee in the course around 8 to 12 individuals who are going to help give you feedback. Now, this is not a performance assessment. This is an assessment of how you show up in the workspace that you live. So you might have the person who you report to. You might also have direct reports who report to you. You might also have lateral people in your assessment, people who you work side by side, who do the same work under some of the same conditions. You might also have a former employer. You might have a volunteer role that you play. Others have included other people who are mentors to them. Because again, what this is assessing, the Leadership Practices Inventory, is taking an inventory of you as you show up in a behavioral framework. And so these behaviors are not good or bad. They're not graded on an A to Z or a 1 to 10. They're graded in frequency. So part of what you'll be gaining insight into when you go through the Leadership Practices Inventory is your own self-discovery, because you're going to rate yourself, your own self-awareness, how others see you in the workplace. And then, of course, as we look at the scores of you, your manager, your other direct reports, we're going to be able to build sort of a profile of how you show up as a leader in the space you occupy. And that's very powerful. Sometimes it can be a lot, almost overwhelming to have that evidence. And some of that overwhelmingness is the gratitude. I hear people frequently say in the workshop, I didn't know they saw that about me. Or, how come they don't see that about me? It kind of goes back and forth. So it's a great tool to really dig in deep with how others perceive you, how you perceive yourself, and then from there, we move forward into the workshop action plan. So the LPI is an essential tool, and in our work with you, once an individual is enrolled in the course, we guide you on selecting the participants for your LPI. We help you get into the system and make sure that there's enough time for each to assess and fill out that document so that you have some good, strong data as you enter the course, into the workshop in person. Easy. So here's some of the data that you'll get back, and I kind of jumping in a little bit. In the Leadership Challenge framework, there are 5 practice areas. You heard the folks in the video talk about the 5 practices. You may have even seen these colors. And so you get data back on your self-rating. You get data back on how your average rating, your managers and observers and so forth. You can see? In addition to these 5 practice areas, go ahead to the next slide. And this is a little hard to see, but you can see here we have the 30 unique behaviors. And so the data that you get back will help you break down where are you most frequently seen in behaviors and where are you least frequently seen. And of course, one might say, well, I'm going to work on the areas where I'm least frequently seen, but that's not always the strategy. Sometimes it's a mix. Sometimes we want to take what we're good at and accelerate it. Sometimes we want to take what we're least frequent at and step back and pause and ask the questions why. Is it because others don't see us? Is it because there's some sort of a barrier to that success? Or is it just a matter of continuing to refine and examine, learn, and grow? So the data that comes back to you helps you analyze not only these practice areas, but then stratifying where do you most frequently appear in the framework. Let me just pause before we go on. Sorry, Nancy, and just ask, for those of you who are watching and following along, does this make sense to you? What questions does it provoke? Have you ever had a 360 evaluation before? No? Veronica? Yeah. Marcella?
I was part of one, but I completed one for someone.
Okay.
I haven't been done for me, so I'm really interested to find out the results so I can have room to grow in different areas.
Yeah, it's really a gift. I appreciate you saying that because it does take a bit of time for someone to complete it. You're asking a big favor. If you've completed one yourself, Marcella, you know that it was probably a 10-20 minute effort on your part. And what's beautiful is sometimes you get back a lot of narrative. So it's a gift of people's time. But that data I think can strengthen you in really your approach toward others. So as we say, this is the last group, so you can kind of see who attends. We've got a couple, 3 guys in there, and the rest is sort of the classic Head Start mix of women. Always the quietest place in any Head Start meeting is the men's restroom, because there's so few of us. So we have the 5 areas of the leadership challenge, the practices. And just to kind of walk you through these 5 practice areas, model the way is very much exactly what you might assume. It's about how do you model to others? How do others see you? How are you known for doing what you say to do? Are you leading in such a way that people can follow you? Talk about followership, which is essential. Second area is that of inspire a shared vision. And we all know this instinctively, that leaders, whether they're a leader of a family, leader of a classroom, or leader of an agency, if they don't know where they're going, if they don't have vision for what that destination looks like, they're hard to follow and they're not always contagious. We want a contagious leadership where we really have vision about what's next. Third area is this concept of challenging the process. Are we alive and thinking about how to improve and how to create opportunities for new and better ways to innovate, not to take high-risk maneuvers, but certainly to look at our work and ask ourselves, is there a better way? Fourth area is that enable others to act. That's that servant leader, to really show up in a way that others can feel guided by you. And the fifth area is that of encouraging the heart. And really, areas 4 and 5 in particular are woven through all of the other areas. So whether we're talking about modeling or vision, we're often drawing upon that encouragement and the work that we do to advance people's sense of spirit and gratitude. So these are the 5 practice areas. You saw just a little bit that was hard to see, the 30 behaviors, and the tool that pulls it all together is the LPI. So that's the framework. During the 2 days, which is what we are talking about, you'll receive quite a bit of materials. The hardback book, which I have with me, the latest edition, which can be a little intimidating. So we get that to you for your reference. You also have the participant workbook, which is provided to you. And in the workbook, it's got a lot of exercises, some that we walk through together, some that are there for you, as well as some other hands-on exercise group projects and some other little learning tools that you can see there in the picture. So it's a very resource rich. We also offer as a follow-up, because we do action planning within the workshop, we offer a chance to meet post the workshop to really talk through what action plan you're looking to implement, so that if you come away saying, I'm going to really focus in this particular area of my leadership and I'm going to do this over the next period of time, we're there to help guide you in that implementation stage. And then, you know, this is just always, it comes up who attends the workshop. Over the years, we've watched that senior leadership teams have come in particular those that are newly forming. When a new director steps in, this can be a very healthy discussion about values and vision. We also have a lot of emerging managers, folks who have been assigned to a role but haven't assessed where they sit in terms of that larger group. So emerging managing program partners have been brought into these workshops because, again, it helps the agency to see more about the individuals who have come up. We see folks who've been at their work for years looking for renewal. Maybe they've been assigned to a new position, or maybe they're just looking for new ways to jumpstart their organization, their efforts. And then, of course, we've trained with organizations, have hired us to come in because it does offer that shared framework. So we've done entire agencies, Tulare County, Kings County, Kings Community Action, Parents and Children Together. So we've been hired to come in and provide the workshop so that as managers and directors and leaders go forward, they have that common framework. You can see here just a little bit of a couple quotes from past attendees. And I will just say, from what I find in terms of past attendees, is it does vary greatly. I have had people go through this workshop where for them, it's such a strength finder, it's such a development of identity. And for others, it's just affirming. It just gives them the affirmation to know they're on the right path. So folks have different perspectives. As you see, Judy here believes that it was the data. She loved the data. It helped her ground herself in things to reflect on. For Doreen, it was the out-of-the-box thinking. It was thinking about ways to improve, and it was looking at practices. So for everybody, it might be just a little different. Hearing what the workshop is about, how do you think it might affect the work that you're doing in Long Beach? Anyone willing to take a stab at it? How it might change or might impact your work?
I definitely think it will be very helpful to reflect on my current practices and how I'm perceived by my team. Because for me, I really believe in developing others. So when I'm coming across and I'm trying to be helpful and be of service, if I'm being perceived that way.
Yeah.
So.
Great point. Veronica, how do you think it might affect you? Oops, you're muted.
Hi, no, I don't know why my speaker's not working. However, I think this is very a value work, definitely to amplify not only our individual selves, but going back to the purpose and the core of our service to the program, to the families, to the children, and to our colleagues as well. It definitely something that resonated was in your previous slide. It said about individuals seeking to renew values. And I mean, how often do we stop and think about like our values as it relates to a leadership capacity, right? And so that's like something that I'm really excited to learn and see what it looks like. I know we are led by characters. Usually that kind of tends to identify us. with honesty, gratitude, but really diving a little bit deeper into that, to amplify just the whole work and elevate a whole community. So that was really beautiful. So I think this work is definitely a value. Whether you stay here, whether you take these skills elsewhere, and even in our personal home, I could definitely see how this, can create just a dynamic change and support resilience in our home, build our confidence, with my children. So yeah, it's definitely of great value.
Yeah, I love the fact that you pointed to values and about amplifying it, because it is true. Most of us who have done anything long enough know that there's very little separation between how we show up at work and who we are as people. We just are baked. I mean, we come to work, we're either lovers or we're strugglers, right? And so, this is just how we are. And I think so often we think, well, there's the organization and then there's me. I think we're just kind of all together. And the more, in my experience at least, the more congruency I am with the organization, the happier I am doing the work. It becomes just a part of my, inhale and exhale, right? It's just that, not that it means I want to work more hours. It's just, I don't want to be like performing over here and then thriving over here. I want it to be one. And I think the leadership challenge helps us to find that common ground and live it more authentically. Cool. Well, great. Michelle, anything you want to add on before we wrap up?
I think that they both said what I was thinking, so I think we're good.
Good. Excellent. Thank you. Well, so just to wrap up, as we started with from the front end, the workshop that we're marketing is in April at Cal Poly Pomona, so not too far from where you all are at in Los Angeles. It's a beautiful setting. We're kind of up above is it the San Gabriel's, I think we look out to? Yeah, so it's a great setting. It's very relaxing. We try to make it interactive, try to make it very personable. It's great if you can get your paperwork into us by April 1st so that we can get you moving on the assessment. That's an essential tool. You'll enjoy the workshop the better your assessment is completed. If folks jump in at the last minute, we'll hustle and make that happen too, but always best. So you got plenty of time through March to push this up through the powers that be. And as always, after this call, if there's something that Lindsay or I can do to help you, provide you with more detail, please reach out to us. We'll be glad to be of support.